Last class, we started talking about graphing inequalities, and I just want to recap and make sure we're all on the same page, as well as teach you maybe a couple tricks, and as well as talk about working backwards. So everybody should have this piece of paper sitting on their desk in front of them, and I need you to go ahead and I need you to highlight this title for me, please. So graphing inequalities is a little bit different than just graphing an equation. In order to graph an inequality, what's something that you have to remember? Well, I have to remember to shade. What's the purpose of shading? Why am I shading on an inequality? Well, I shade because it tells me all my possible solutions of my answers. So with an inequality, you have an infinite number of solutions, or with an equation, you only have a designated solution. So to represent all possible solutions, we shade our answers. So how do I know if I'm going to get a dotted line or a solid line? So I'm going to get a dotted line, which looks just like this. And I use a dotted line when I'm using a less than or a greater than sign. And I'm going to draw a solid line, which looks like this, when I have less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. So how do I know which direction to shade? If it's less than or if it's less than or equal to, I'm going to shade up. I'm going to shade above the line. If it's greater than or equal to, I'm going to shade. Oh wait, I totally just screwed all of this up. Holy moly. I lied. Let's erase this word up and above. Let's play again. Hopefully you're writing in pencil. If it's less than or equal to, I'm shading down. I'm shading below the line. If it's greater than or equal to, I'm shading up. That's above the line. Which makes sense because when you think about less than, do you think about down or do you think about up? You think about down. So when you have a less than sign, you're going to shade down. And when you have a greater than sign, you're going to shade up. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this trick right here about shading up and shading down only works when y is alone. If y is not by itself, this trick does not work. So you have to be very, very careful. So let's go ahead and look at some of these problems. I'm going to erase this so I can come back and look at this picture. So whenever I'm doing these types of graphs, I always make mistakes. And my first mistake is this up here. I always forget whether it's going to be a dotted or a solid line. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at your equation. Y is less than negative 8 over 3x minus 3. Ask yourself, is y by itself? Yes. I'd go ahead and highlight your inequality symbol. Looking at that inequality symbol, is it a less than or is it a less than or equal to symbol? It's less than, so I know I'm going to draw a dotted line. So I always put a D up here to help my brain. So now I'm going to plot m equals negative 8 over 3, b equals negative 3. So negative 3, plot a point. I can't go down into the right 8, so I'm going to go up to 8 and to the left 3 and plot a point. I can't plot any more points, but between these 2 points, I'm going to draw a dotted line. So, friends, friendly advice, if you accidentally draw a solid line and then you go, oh man, I actually have to do a dotted line, here's your cheat. You take your eraser and you just go in and you just erase little marks to make it look like a dotted line. So, this line pretend this line, I'm taking a pair of scissors and I'm going to cut along this dotted line. I cut my coordinate plane into 2 pieces. I cut it into this piece and I cut it into this piece. Would you agree with me? So I have to ask myself, am I going to shade on this side or am I going to shade on this side? Well, how I know is I go back and I look at my inequality symbol. My inequality symbol was a less than symbol. So when it's less than, does that mean you shade down or you shade up? It means you shade down. So I'm going to pick a point anywhere on my dotted line, and I'm going to draw a down arrow. Notice my down arrow is on this side of my line that's been cut, which means I shade on this side of my line. The purpose of shading is to represent all possible solutions. So if I came around and I said, okay, if I plot the point 2, 2, which is right there, is that a solution? No, because it's not on my line. What if I plot a solution negative 5, 1? That's right there. That point is not on my line, but is that a solution? Yes, because it's in my shaded area. So here's my trick question. What if I put my unordered pair on my dotted line? Would that be a solution? No. And here's why not. So this is not a solution and this is not a solution. This value right here is not a solution because that's saying like 3 is less than 3. Is 3 less than 3 a true statement? No. So this is not a solution. So when it's a dotted line, if it's on the line, it's not a solution. But if it's in the shaded area, it is a solution. So let's look at number 2. Looking at number 2, can I immediately graph it? No, because y is not by itself. So I'm going to get y by itself first. So what am I going to do to get y by itself? I'm going to add 5x to both sides. So I have y is greater than or equal to 5x plus 1. Looking at this equation, is y alone? Yes. So I can look at my inequality to help me out. Looking at that inequality symbol, is it going to be a dotted line or a solid line? It's going to be a solid line. I'm going to write S and circle it. If you don't need to write m equals b equals anymore, you don't have to. Go ahead and graph it. So here's 1. Then I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1. And I'm going to draw a solid line connecting those dots. So this line is like I'm taking a pair of scissors and I'm cutting along my coordinate plane. I have cut this coordinate plane into this piece and this piece. So I have to ask myself, which side of my line am I going to shade? So go back to your inequality symbol. This inequality symbol is a greater than symbol. So greater than means up. So pick any point you want, it doesn't matter which one, and draw an up arrow. Because my up arrow is on this side of my line, that's the side I'm shading. So shade. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when you shade, you do not shade like this. Look at the board and call it a day. You have to shade this entire side. You can't shade like a maniac where your paper is going to look horrible. You have to be very, very careful that you're shading. And you're getting as close to that line as possible. The purpose of shading? To show all possible solutions. So if I plot an ordered pair at 3, 1, is that a solution? No. What about at negative 3, 1? Yes, because it's in the shaded area. What if I plot a point on my line? Is that a solution? Yes, because it's solid. A solid line is like saying 3 is less than or equal to 3, which is a true statement. Let's do one more. 3. Y is greater than 2. Y is by itself. Look at your inequality symbol. It's going to be a dotted line or a solid line. Dotted. So I put that there because this is the number one mistake that I make. Looking at this line, what kind of line is it? It's a Hoy line. So I'm going to plot Hoy at Y at 2. I'm going to draw a dotted line. Look at my symbol. My symbol is greater than, which means I'm shading up. So I'm shading on that side of my line. So I'm going to go ahead and shade it in. It's amazing how many of you do not remember your less than and your greater than sign. So I have a great little trick for you. It's this symbol right here. So it's this symbol right here. And then you draw arrows going down to the line. So what this symbol shows you is if your symbol is a less than sign, if your symbol looks like this, you shade down. And if your symbol looks like this, which is greater than, you shade up. So how you get that symbol? If I erase it, you always high to low, high to low, and then you connect them. This is just a cute little way to help you remember. So I want you to go ahead and I want you to pause this video and I want you to do 4, 5, and 6 on your own. When you finish, unpause the video and the answers will be on the board so you can check it. So if you take a look, the answers to 4 and 5 are now on the board. One thing I want to mention on number 4, make sure, notice here, I divided by a negative, my sign flipped, which is why the shading trick up here does not work unless y is by itself. And notice I used this inequality symbol down here to help me. And then if we quickly look at number 6, and I'll just graph it, it's a Vux line at 2, it's a solid line, and I'm going to shade because it's less than, I'm shading to the left. So it'll be on this side. So I want you to go ahead and flip your paper. So here, I'm giving you the picture. I want you to write the equation. So, whenever you hear the word equation line, what do you immediately think? Y equals mx plus b. So, on these pictures, I want to do the exact same thing. I got to find m first, and then I got to find b. So, m equals b equals. So, b is where my line touches my y-axis, which is at -4. M, I'm going to pick 2 points that go perfectly through the corners of my grid. So I see this point here and I see this point here. So how do I find M? Rise over run. So 1, 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So M is -2 over 5. So I'm going to write Y. I'm going to leave a blank for my inequality symbol. -2 over 5x minus 4. So now I got to do my inequality symbol. So here's how we do it. I want you to pick a point anywhere on your line. So put your pencil on at any point on your line, anywhere on your line. And how am I going to get to the shaded area? Am I going to draw an up arrow to get to the shaded area? Or am I going to draw a down arrow? Well, to get to the shaded area, I'm going to draw an up arrow. So in order to draw an up arrow, that means my symbol is going to be greater than, or my symbol is going to be greater than or equal to. How do I know whether or not it's going to be greater than, or if it's going to be greater than or equal to? Since my line down here is a dotted line, it's just greater than. So my answer is y is greater than -2 over 5x minus 4. Let's look at the next one. I got to find m first, and then I got to find b. So b is 3, because it's where my line crosses my y-axis. And the next one I'm going to pick is this one. And I'm going to do rise over run. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. -2 because I went to the left. So m is -4 over 2, which cleans up to just -2. So y, leave a blank, -2x plus 3. So now I got to figure out my inequality symbol. So place your pencil anywhere you want on that line. How am I getting to that shaded area? I can either draw an up arrow or I can draw a down arrow. I'm drawing an up arrow. So since I'm drawing an up arrow, is that going to be greater than or is that going to be less than? It's going to be greater than. So now I have to ask myself, is it going to be greater than or equal to, or is it just going to be greater than? It's going to be greater than or equal to because my line is solid. So go ahead and pause this video and try the last 2 problems on this paper. The answers to the last 2 problems are on the board. So go ahead and make sure you are all good to go, and then we will keep going.